From chaos to structure. What does that mean? So AWS has just released an amazing IDE, agentic IDE called Kiro. My name is Farah, and this is Cloud Explained with Farah. Let's jump in. So let's talk about Kiro. Kiro isn't just another AI coding system. It's an IDE that actually thinks. So over the past few weeks, I got an opportunity to be able to test out Kiro, and it has amazing features that differentiate from the existing assistants that are out there. It's actually built for real workflows. It works with existing tools that can be able to understand your structure. We are going to see all of it in a practical sense. But let me go through the different features that are actually on Kiro. The first one that I really like is the specs bit, right? As a developer, or as an organization, or as a team, before we start building, we usually need to have the structure. We usually need to have the specification of what we actually want for our project. Most of the AI assistants that are out there, you have to come up with your own structure, with your own specification and requirements to be able to work with them. But with Kiro, once you give it the idea you want to work with, it creates the structure, the specification that you need, right from the requirements for the project to the design of how the project will actually look like, to the implementation tasks, the steps on how it's going to implement the projects. So there are different modes. Kiro can be able to work in autopilot mode, where it modifies the files and it has all the control, or you can choose to be the one in control, whereby you accept or reject the changes that Kiro makes. We also have very smart context awareness. And then the other feature which is really cool is the steering part, the agent steering, whereby, look at this, you are an organization, you have different standards as an organization, right? So you can set up custom instruction for Kiro to be on the same page as you. And then whether it's your team coding standards, project specific info, build information, Kiro will be able to be on the same team and will be able to understand, okay, this is how this organization, this team, this developer works, and I now understand and I'm on the same page, right? We also have this other cool feature we call the agent hooks. It automatically triggers when events happen, like for example, running tests when you save a file, or change the documentation once a change has been made onto a file, or spell checks in your documentation, or when you click a button, it triggers an event after an action, right? And then the last bit is the MCP integration, whereby you want to extend Kiro's capabilities with external services and APIs. For example, if you want to have more information on AWS, you can give the AWS docs, and Kiro can have the vast ability to understand. If you want to make changes in your Lambda functions, you can use different Lambda MCP functions. There's a vast range of that MCP tools to be able to extend Kiro's capabilities. Now, aside from the theoretical part, let's jump in and see the different features and how you can be able to implement it on Kiro. So quickly, let's get some hands-on with Kiro and see and visualize the concept that we've just talked about and see in practice how it actually works. So I've navigated to Kiro. I've already set up everything. I'm gonna put all the resources in the comments in the description. You can be able to access how to install Kiro and all that. I've installed Kiro, I've set it up. So if you're starting out, you're going to go through an onboarding process, and then once you reach here, you just open a project, and then you're going to see Kiro on the left side, the Kiro logo on the left side here. And then when you click on it, you're going to see the different Kiros features. And then if you want to open a chart, it's on my right side. You can be able to see the chart, and there are two ways. You can vibe, which is you chart first then build, the kiosk that we used to, and or the specification way, the spec way, whereby you plan first and then you build. You're going to see that how that actually works. And then here on the chart, you can be able to see the chart box, and then on the hash is context. You want to add context to your prompt, and context can be different things. It can be your code base, it can be your code, your docs, it can be your repo, it can be the terminal, it can be problems you want to troubleshoot, it can be a folder, URL, current file, steering. We talked about you want to tell Kiro your standards and everything to be on the same page as you, or MCP. An MCP on the left side, you can be able to see down here the different MCP servers. I've already configured one. If you want to configure another one, you must enable MCP server first of all, and then once you've done that, this is the one for docs. Let me expand this and increase the visuals, so you can be able to see this one is for the docs. And for Windows, make sure if you're working on a Windows machine, make sure you add this for it to be able to work. And then let me add another one, maybe for DynamoDB, which is going to be key in the project which you're going to work with. That's how you add it. You can find this MCP configuration in the AWS Labs documentation. I'm going to put it in the description so you can follow it. And then it's connecting. Once it's connected, we can test it out. For example, I'm waiting for it to connect. It's connected. We head here. Maybe we want to add a context, an MCP as a context. I'm going to choose, let me use, let me just use the docs one and say like, okay, how do I implement a Lambda function? It's going to execute and understand it. I'm going to run the tool. You can see the cool Kiro feature there. It's really nice. Something spooky is happening behind the scenes. Just getting more detailed information about Lambda using the docs. It's reading the document. It has searched the document. Now it's reading the document about Lambda. So we have expanded Kiro's capability now. We've given it access to an external tool, right, to give it context. I'm running the tool. Searching for deployment and infrastructure patterns. So it's using the AWS docs as context. Right? And the fundamentals of MCP in simple terms is like a USB connector, right? It acts, it gives access, this agent access to external tools or knowledge bases to be able to have a wide variety of information. Now, I don't want to create anything, that's okay. I don't want to create anything because we want to do these things step by step. I don't want this one. Okay, now we've tested it and you can see it's working. Now let's open a new session and now create our project that we have in mind. So I had this project in mind that I wanted us to build with Kiro, right? And I'm gonna give, you know, sorry. Oh yes, there's different contexts that I might choose to give, right? But yeah, I'm gonna tell it utilize the DynamoDB and AWS Docs MCP tools. Or you can add it as context there. So let's see step by step how Kiro is going to implement this. So it's starting to create the spec. So it's going to create the requirements document first, and then I'm going to review the requirements document and see, am I okay with the requirements that Kiro has given me? If I'm okay with it, we can move to the design phase. If I'm not okay with it, I can tweak it or work with Kiro to facilitate a better requirements for my project. So if you want to see the specs, it's going to appear here. But let's wait for Kiro to see. So I take a look at the requirements. So yeah, I'm okay with the requirements. Once you're okay with the requirements, you can go through it. If you want to make changes, you work with Kiro to make changes. For me, I'm okay. We can move to the design phase and see the designs Kiro is going to give us. So it's going to create a design document. So it's gonna, now you can see Kiro now is utilizing the MCP tools to set the to research some key aspect of the AWS service we'll be using, and we'll be using Lambda, DynamoDB, and maybe API gateway. So I'm gonna run it, accept it. We have order in what we're building. Learning about the patterns. It's learning about the different aspects on how to create DynamoDB, the best ways on how to do it. And now it's using the DynamoDB data modeling tool, right? And DynamoDB MCP has different tools. We're going to see it. It's using that one. So it has expanded its context and it's able to trying to understand the project to come up with a design for you. Remember, we haven't started coding at all, right? No chaos, just structure. So once it creates the design document, you review the design, you understand the design, and if you're satisfied with it and you say, okay, this design is good with me, we can move on to the next bit, which is the implementation. You move. If not, you can work with Kiro to improve the designs. Okay, so it's telling me to look at the designs, and here you can see the tabs. I'm going to navigate to the design and see. So the client to the API gateway, the Lambda function, it triggers CloudWatch logs and it creates a table DynamoDB. So receives the process, business logic, and interact with DynamoDB. That's what the Lambda function does. The DynamoDB, it stores the player's scores with timestamps in a single table design, and then the CloudWatch monitors performance and captures logs for the designing. Okay, for me, I'm okay with it. I'm going to move to the implementation plan. Now, in the implementation plan, in simple terms, is the steps or the task list on how Kiro is going to implement your project, right? It's like now you're working with a developer or an engineer, and then the team agrees on the requirements and the designs, and now you come up with the implementation plan or the sprints. For example, this week you're going to do this, and in this week, in this specific days, this is the task you're going to do and accomplish, and we incrementally increase until we complete the project. So Kiro is going to create for me the tasks. Again, I'm going to review the task. If I'm okay with the task, we're going to see after that how to move on with it. Let me analyze the task. Again, remember, I'm in autopilot mode whereby Kiro is doing more of the heavy lifting. If you as a developer want to be the supervisor and wants to review every Kiro code or every Kiro build, you can do that by using the supervisor. You accept it or reject it. For me, I'm utilizing the autopilot. You see the task list, and you can see set up the project structure, initialize the Python project, create a serverless.yaml configuration file, and then implement the table schema, and then write the utility function. So the tasks, the step by step on how Kiro is actually going to implement our project. And this is really cool, whereby now we have order in what we're building. Now we can be able to refer. Now we can be able to go back and reiterate. Now we can be able to change some things. So for example, if I want to change some requirements, I go to the requirements and say, okay, I don't want to use this. Let's say maybe I don't want to use Terraform, I want to use something else. Or let's say you can add event bridge to trigger a Lambda function once a user is added to something. Like, you can be able to change the requirements on the go, step by step, on a specific document. Now, I finalize the task list, and then we're going to run the tasks step by step till we finish. So the spec for my serverless leaderboard API is now complete. Now, how do I run this task? I come here and I click start the task. Then Kiro is going to execute the task one by one. So that's the whole structure. And let's say in my project, I want maybe to, once the project is complete, when a file is created, or when I finish creating a file or working on a file, Kiro is going to, a test is going to be triggered on that specific file. That's what agent hooks does. And then the agent steering is just guiding Kiro on the standards I want it to follow in my project. So I'm going to pause the video until Kiro completes all the tasks, and then we're going to see the end product of what Kiro has actually built for us. Now, as you can see, the first task is complete. And once the first task is complete, you can be able to see the summary and what it has been able to achieve. You can read the execution, and then the color turns green. And then the second task starts, and then it opens another session, and then it works on the task step by step, the subtask. You can see the first one is create a DynamoDB primary key and GSI configuration. You can see DynamoDB table definition with primary key and GSI configuration. Step by step, it works on the subtask until it finishes, and then it goes on to the other task. And then sometimes you can see a command that it needs to actually implement, so you need to enable shell integration, Control Shift P, you can be able to see shell integration. You enable shell integration. So yeah, cool. Now Kiro is able to complete all the tasks that it had generated to actually implement from task 1 to task 12. All of it has been completed. It had created everything and deployed the project to AWS. Now let's go and see what our project was all about to understand it after Kiro has implemented it, and see if Kiro has actually fitted to what we initially wanted it to do. So our project, remember, was just to implement a serverless leaderboard API for game using AWS Lambda, API Gateway, and DynamoDB. So it provides endpoint to submit player scores, retrieve top scores, and reset the leaderboard. Right? So the system is designed to be scalable, cost-effective, and handle concurrent requests gracefully. So let's see if Kiro was able to do it. So let's test it out. Right? The following have different API endpoints. So let me open my terminal, and first of all I'm gonna see if my table has anything, or if my leaderboard has anyone on it. Let me check it out. Let's see. No top scores because there's no leaderboard. There's nobody that has been added to the leaderboard, right? So let's add a player to the leaderboard, and I'm going to call the player Kiro. Let me put it 1500 points, right? Let's say Kiro is now the leader of the leaderboard. I mean, in real sense, in a few weeks' time, it's gonna be the leader. So let's put it there. Let's add the player to the table. The score has been submitted successfully. Cool. Let's confirm by checking our table. Yes, the player has been added successfully at this time. Now let's add another player and say the player currently is competitor B, and is currently the one at the top of the leaderboard for now, right? For now. Okay, let's get to the leaderboard and see. Okay, competition B is the one who is currently leading the leaderboard, right? And now, if you want to reset the leaderboard, you can be able to reset by deleting the method. So reset the table and say, next month now, Kiro will be the one with the top score, right? Kiro now has 1600 points. Let's say Kiro now has 1700 points, and now is the leader of the leaderboard. Let's see. Okay, so in essence, our project works, and that's really cool. I actually enjoyed the building process of it, and Kiro implemented my vision or my idea of what I actually wanted to see it do. Now maybe if I want to change my requirements and maybe reiterate or add some changes, right? Or maybe I can create an agent steering and maybe directly call it front end. I want it to dependencies, something like that. I can give it a description and where I want it to head and hooks and all that. But I really enjoyed building with Kiro. So that's just about it for the video today. I hope you enjoyed it. We went through an introduction of Kiro and the different features Kiro has to offer. We also then did some hands-on whereby we built with Kiro a simple project to see its capabilities. And all I can say is we just scratched the surface of the possibility of what Kiro can do. I will challenge you to build with it. What really stands out to me about Kiro is just the ability to go from a goal in my head to a set of tasks right? To a set of tasks and technical architecture, all in a living document that I can tweak and collaborate on. Most tools that are out there generate code, but Kiro gives structure to the chaos before you write a single line of code. So, in the description, I'm going to put the different resources you can be able to access about Kiro. And all I can say is go build and challenge yourself.